I think first, just to kick off, it's crazy to think it's been a year since you've joined us. And I think for you, it's been nearly a decade since you joined and started Gainsight. So do you mind just talking a little bit about what does Gainsight do and how did you found the company?
Totally, yeah. So I worked in enterprise software most of my career, and the early days of enterprise software, as John showed in the slide, was all about selling to new customers and getting new customers. And in the old business models, companies would get paid up front, so that worked really well. As people move to SaaS and recurring revenue, you can't just get new customers, you gotta keep your existing customers. You gotta make sure they stay with you. Gainsight's all about helping companies keep their customers and grow their existing customers.
That's great. So Nick, I think we met 4 or 5 years ago, and I just talked through how we think about sourcing, but you were sourced. And so what was that like to be on the other side of how we source businesses and kind of came into the Vista portfolio?
Yeah, it's very interesting because it was a long relationship. I remember the first time you came into our office in that very nice 3-piece suit.
What do you think of the dress code overall?
Yeah, they did different dress code in tech versus private equity, I think. But you came in and it was like first time I heard about Vista in detail. I knew you were a big private equity firm. And over the years, got to know you more and more. I think one way was because about half Vista companies started using Gainsight. So that was great because we got to know a lot of the companies. But then I also got to know a lot of the CEOs. A lot of the CEOs were our customers. I got to spend time with them at different events. And every time I heard from them, I heard, don't think of Vista just like another private equity firm. They're a little different. And over the years, after many, many emails and meetings, I think over 5 years, and maybe eventually a nice dinner, we decided to get serious.
It's pretty cool that you had that experience, and I think we didn't know that we'd be able to invest in you, but we liked you and we liked your company, and I think we were building a sincere thesis around this idea of customer success and really just saving your customers, protecting them, making them healthier. And that became even more important in 2020, which was obviously like just a really tough year. But in every boardroom that we were in and what we were hearing from other companies, like customer success and customer retention was the #1 thing. So, that was obviously when you also decided that you're interested in partnering with us. So do you mind just talking about what 2020 was like for you and why did you choose to partner with Vista?
Yeah, so we launched Gainsight about 10 years ago. So 2020 had been about eight years. And I'm really believe in my company. I think every founder does, every CEO does. But anyone in my job wants to do something big and honestly do it for a long time. You want to be able to build a company that's to last, right? So you're not just thinking about the next year or an exit or anything else. You're just thinking about how do you build a company for the long term. And so in 2020, our business ended up performing pretty well. So we were very fortunate. And we were trying to decide what the right next step was. Eventually we thought this could be a public company, but we didn't think we were really ready. And so we were fortunate to talk to the Vista folks and say, okay, is this a good time to kind of go to the next phase? We were a venture-backed company before this, and we had great venture investors. But at some point, you want a partner, kind of one partner, to go deeper and kind of focus on scaling. And that's sort of where the Vista partnership made a lot of sense. And frankly, we as the Vista folks know, we didn't look at other firms. It was kind of one of those things that we just kind of built a really good relationship over time. And it wasn't about shopping around and getting the best deal. It was actually just about, we'd love to work with you guys. So
that's great. And you obviously running a business in Silicon Valley, private equity didn't have the greatest reputation in Silicon Valley for a very long period of time. I'd be curious, what were you the most worried about coming into the Vista portfolio and joining Vista?
Yeah, totally. And I think the fears were probably much higher earlier. Honestly, if you'd asked me, 8 years ago, hey, do you want to have your company be part of a private equity firm? I'd be like, no, I don't know. That's not, I saw Pretty Woman, Richard Gere was a private equity person in that movie, and that didn't work out well, right, for all the people. And so
he also wore 3-piece suits.
Yeah, he
just
did.
For the record.
Exactly, right. And so I had that impression way back when. But then over the years, I didn't start thinking of Vista as a PE firm, just started thinking about Vista and what's unique about Vista. Like I said, I knew a lot of the CEOs, and everyone said a number of things. They said, hey, it's all about growth. It's not just about cutting costs, about the right balance of cost and profit, that they're really strategic. A lot of kind of good things from kind of the community overall. And so my fears kind of reduced year after year. But then the one that remains, I think, when you're thinking about doing any kind of deal with anyone, doesn't matter who it is, if you're a CEO, is how are my people going to feel about this, right? What are they going to feel about this partnership? And you can imagine when you announce a big deal, your employees all Google what happens when you get bought by a private equity firm? By the way, the answers to those are not reassuring on Google. And so then, then they're wondering, and then you have this period of announcing it and talking about it. But I'll say a year later, our company, our employees could not be more happy. Honestly, our Glassdoor rating's the highest it's ever been. Our employee engagement, everything, it's like off the charts. So there were definitely some anxiety, but it turns out it was much ado about nothing.
It's really good to hear, and I think like one of the things you espoused when we first met you is this idea of like human first and putting people before anything else, and I think that really resonated with us with our view of talent and development, and really like that really brings us to like what was value creation like for you? Because we spent a lot of time doing a lot of things over the last year. There's probably too many to name here, but what were the three most important or best things in your mind that we got to work on together?
Yeah, totally. So when you do a partnership with Vista, you build this value creation plan together and you kind of think about different levers for the company. The three that jumped out for us, and they really were exactly what we wanted to work on independently, so it was kind of perfect timing. Number one was scaling our talent. So we're a very values-driven, culture-driven company. How do we scale that? How do we hire more effectively, more consistently? How do we actually hire with more diversity, which Vista is very passionate about? How do we onboard employees? So talent was number one. Number two was scaling go-to-market. We'd gotten to a certain size as a company, decent scale, but we want to be much bigger and just partnering on the go-to-market side. And then number three was kind of mix of organic and inorganic. Vista obviously has a lot of experience doing transactions, and it was actually, we just did our first acquisition a few months ago, and I tell all of my CEO friends, I'm like, it's like amazing, because you have to figure out what you want to do and who you want to buy and all that, but then Vista has so much experience in getting deals done.